Hello and good evening, my dear people, my good friends all around the world. Tranonawa, Macharjagalir, or Fud Macrunya. It's Misha Anton August. Tashe Am Go. Live Irish Myths. You're all very welcome. It's a cold evening in the Boyne Valley. It's 0 degrees right now. First spell of proper winter weather is on its way for this area over the next number of days, following a succession of low pressure weather systems coming in off the Atlantic, which kept us both relatively mild. I'm talking about like 8-10 degrees during the day. In December, we had highs of 14 Celsius. But with those mild temperatures also comes cloud, a lot of it, and some rain. So I was delighted this morning to see frost covering the landscape and a blue sky. I made the most of it. I made a trip with the drone and the camera, captured lots of photographs and video. Patrons will be getting the first of the best. So that address, which scrolls along the bottom, the Buy Me a Coffee one is a once-off, but if you want to support Mythical Ireland, please do consider becoming a patron. Anyway, we are in the second of a planned series of episodes. We will get back to the P.W. Joyce social history reading, but we're in the second of a succession of episodes dealing with the top 50 books if you're interested in learning about Irish mythology. As you know, if you were watching last week, I struggled to decide what was in the top 10. I have a list of 50, more actually. And today, I've no doubt I'm going to struggle with number 11 to 20 as to what takes priority. I'll do my very best. Before we get kicked off, let's say hello to everybody. Hope you're all keeping warm and dry. Elaine Lingenfelter. Wow. So it's a rare one because I saw your pictures on the Mythical Ireland community today, Elaine. It's a rare one, isn't it? -4 Celsius. So earlier on, I was out in my son's car and his external thermometer measures in Fahrenheit. We don't know how to change it to Celsius. And it was measuring 33, which I read is a half a degree over, so 0.5 Celsius. So you're at -4 with a bit of snow. Incredible stuff. After the summer when you had 40 Celsius and 45 Celsius, and I think at one point you had 48 Celsius. It was ridiculously hot. Anyway, stay warm is what I'm saying. I'm usually saying try again, Anthony. I'm usually saying stay cool. Elaine, always a pleasure. And you're the first commenter, which wouldn't be unusual. Rex Fortenberry says, howdy and blessed be to Anthony and all the mighty Tua. May old man winter treat you as gentle as possible. Well, in Irish tradition, of course, she's a lady. She's the Cailleach. I'm loving it at the moment. I love that frosty morning, strong sunshine, clear skies. I love it. Even if it's freezing, it looks fab. Johnny Wilson is in Dallas, where it's 17 Fahrenheit, which is colder than what Elaine was reporting. Allow me to do a quick calculation in my head. I swear I didn't type that into Google. -8 Celsius. Wow. That is cold. Barbara Murphy says, Mythical Ireland, if you're sure. Lol. Barbara, thank you. And hello. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what that's in reference to. So I'm sorry, you've caught me out. You'll have to explain. Or maybe you don't want to explain. Is it something to do with what we were talking about privately? It's on its way. Yay. 322 Messenger says, good evening, Anthony. Well, good evening to you, 322 Messenger. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Hope you enjoy this episode. Nice music, says Steve Martinson. Who is the artist? Are you talking about the intro music to the video, to the live stream? I don't know who it is. It's a stock piece of music that comes with the Streamlabs. Well, it used to be Melon-App, but apparently Melon-App must have been bought by Streamlabs because I'm now on Streamlabs is what I'm using to stream. But I don't know the name of the music, Steve. Good afternoon, good evening to you from the Boyne Valley. Saoirse Nichandal, hope everyone is warm enough. It's 1 degree in Donegal. Well, you're warmer than us, Saoirse, because it's a half a degree here. You have half a degree on us. Ken Chui in Awil too. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Saoirse Tranonawa. I hope you're in good form. And yes, Elaine commenting that Johnny Wilson, who's in Dallas, is even colder than where Elaine is. Heather Marie Leaning says, good evening, Anthony and Tom King and the two. I hope you're all well, XX. Yeah, good form. Good form, despite recent, shall we say, recent visits to the doctors. All good. Alan Hoskins says, hi, everyone from a chilly Ballina, Killaloe. Hope all are well. Alan, always a pleasure. Think we've spoken to you in 2024 already, but just in case, Happy New Year. And to anybody who's watching for the first time in 2024, Alan, I hope you are snug as a bug in a rug down there in that beautiful part of the world near Balebaroo, and that you're keeping warm and dry and safe, and that you're happy. Samantha Healy says, good evening, Anthony, Tom, and all the Tua. Hello, Samantha. You're very welcome. Always a pleasure. Nagathi, is it Nagati Arihi? Kia ora, Happy New Year. Hope you're not too cold in Ireland and the Northern Hemisphere. Good morning from New Zealand. Well, a very good morning to you. Tell us what temperature it is. Go on. You know you want to. I bet you it's a lot warmer than it is here. But look, we are coming out of midwinter. The sun is coming back up the horizon. We've gained about 40 minutes of daylight in total in the day since the winter solstice, which was 3.5 weeks ago. So we're happy. Happy-ish. We've a long way to go yet. Paul McFeely. Hi, Paul. Hope you're well. Yes, indeed, Paul. Not too bad at all. I hope you're in good form. Not sure where you are, Paul. Maybe you might tell us, because I'm always just interested in where people are. But if you don't want to, that's fine. Brendan Byrne, of course, is in Glendalough. The only place to be tonight is Tom's Forge with a dram or two. Yes, with that fire lit and the company and a dram. Sure, where else would you be? Brilliant. Sandra Boothroyd is in the house. Hello, Sandra. Welcome to the episode. Hope you enjoy it. Saoirse is saying to Barbara, it was a pleasure to chat with her. Michael Pike. Another wonderful reading and conversation is at hand. Yes, I suspect there'll be a few rabbit holes, Michael. More than one anyway, I would say. Yes, we'll see how it goes. Wayne Bird. Evening, Anthony. Hope everyone is well and keep you safe. Lovely, beautiful waxing moon this morning. Yeah, lovely to see the crescent moon in the evening sky, which got me thinking about its symbolism. Food for thought. A crescent moon with its deep spiritual meaning. I wonder what our ancestors would think of it. I'm sure they thought a lot about it. The moon factors, I think, very big in the ancient thinking. Excuse me. Sotanar. Giav Nadine Bra. August Tufain Sotanar. It's a pleasure to welcome you. Anna Liffey is in the house. Anna Liffey, you're very welcome, as is Anna L. in Ballybrigeen. Gunday Clea. Good evening, Anthony and the Tua. A very good evening to you. Polymathing is saying a long-handed hello from Toronto. Hello and Happy New Year. I'm pretty sure we haven't been speaking to you in 2024. Very, very Happy New Year to you and all the best for it from the Boyne Valley. Barbara Murphy is saying in Tucson it's 17 degrees Celsius, 63 Fahrenheit. I'm not sure about the rest of you, but I think Barbara's boasting. Barbara, you're plenty warm. Now, come here. You can spare a few degrees. And by the sounds of it, the Texans need it. And I'm pretty sure when Anne McCallum comes on, she's going to need it. And we need it. Actually, we're okay. We're okay. Don't. No. I'm perfectly happy to have this slightly frosty weather once the sun stays out. Steve Martinson says it's -3 in Monona, Wisconsin. Wow. It's a cold one over there. John Main is saying, greetings from a cool and dry for a change, but not for long, rainy San Francisco, I think was the rest of that. John, a very good afternoon to you. Hope you're in good form. Or Burgess, whose first name I can't remember. Hello from a cold upstate New York, -3 Celsius, 27 Fahrenheit. Everyone's cold at the moment, apart from, of course, our friend in New Zealand and Barbara. Ola Conrad is saying it's -4 in Denmark, hoping to see some drone footage. Ooh, yes, we have some of that. Some special stuff. Tuesday Thompson is saying happy Mythology Monday. Well, many happy returns and good afternoon, good evening to you. Greetings from a cool but dry San Francisco, but rain on the way. Thank you, John. Yes. Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, I've always had this mad idea that the entirety of California was always warm. There you go. Android. Catherine Woodruff is saying hello from central Wisconsin. Woke up to minus 12 Fahrenheit or minus 24 Celsius. Woo! Barbara. Ring Barbara Murphy in Arizona. She's going to send you a few degrees. Helen Hurst Shader is here. Greetings. Today is the last of the current deep freeze in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Hope you're all keeping warm. Today is the last of the current deep freeze. Are you sure? You sound very confident, Helen, as if it's all just going to dissipate tomorrow and the sun's going to shine and the temperature's suddenly going to be much warmer. You probably watched it on our weather forecast, in fairness. Let's see if that works out, and hopefully it does. Kath, I'm not saying it won't, and I'm not wishing that it won't, by the way. Catherine Fitzgerald Schramek, is also in Texas. Catherine, I believe it's very cold there at the moment. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Catherine Cleary is saying, always great to join you in this great community from a most beautiful San Diego. Wish I was in Ireland, though. Well, all I would say, Catherine, is if you were coming to Ireland right now, you'd have to bring some extra layers and a few jumpers, a few woolly jumpers and a hat and a scarf and gloves, because it's quite cold. But, you know, it seems that it's not nearly as cold as parts of the States right now. Helen is saying currently minus 21 Celsius. Minus 33 with wind chill. It's warmed up. Well, look on the bright side, eh, Helen? Polly Mathing says minus 21 this morning, but that's normal, eh? Wow. Desiree is in the house. From a chilly Colorado, having a big bowl of gumbo for lunch to stay warm. Well, you enjoy that. Come here and make sure the doggies don't get any, the doggy, until it is time. I'm not sure if gumbo is the sort of thing that doggies are allowed. Ours were just fed before the live stream, so hopefully they're satisfied. Oh, Peter is reporting that it's minus 3 already. It's colder up there in damn there hills, Peter. Last time I checked here in Drogheda, which in fairness was maybe an hour and a half ago, it was plus 0.5 Celsius. Currently, the temperature at Dublin Airport is 0 degrees. So, yeah, I think your elevation definitely makes a difference. Like, the next best thing to Cowl Cullen is Cowl Monaster Boyce, you know. Barbara says, Lexi Erickson asked me to say hi to everyone. Her husband was home because of no heat in the office, and they went to lunch. What a brilliant excuse for missing Live Irish Myths. Absolutely brilliant. Lexi, when you're watching this back, 10 out of 10. Best excuse I ever heard, you know? My dog chewed my internet cable and such lame excuses for not watching, you know? There's 16 feet of snow outside and I have to shovel it away because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get out to get supplies and all sorts of lame excuses. But I mean, husband working from home or being at home because there's no heat in the office and they went to lunch. Brilliant. Absolutely fabulous. I'm loving that. Joe Butler, Auntie Joe is in Colorado, where there is a very cold spell right now. 0 Fahrenheit, minus 17 Celsius. Right now it is minus 4 Fahrenheit. My dogs have cabin fever. I'm sure they have. That is bloody cold. I'm not going to complain about Irish coldness again. Barbara Cohn is watching from Alaska. A very good morning. I think it's still morning in Alaska, Barbara, if I'm not mistaken. Always a pleasure. Hope you're keeping well. Yeah, wow. You are far away from us. We're nighttime, and our darkness has been around for about 3 hours now. Barb Jordan is saying it's cold in the Adirondacks, but Barb is not telling us how cold because she's probably looking at all the conversations about temperatures and just going, no, I'm not wading in there, you know. Erica Bow is saying good afternoon to all. Erica, what a pleasure. Hope you're in good form. Hope you've been enjoying the Patreon videos. And I hope you're not too cold because a lot of people seem to be very cold at the moment. Ad Astral Music says hi to Anthony on the two. I hope you're all snug, warm, and well. They are good wishes. And I wish that for everyone as well. David Connellan is sharing a link for a source of royalty-free music. That's a legit link, David? It's not a dodgy link. Sorry for even asking. You know what I mean? It's not going to. install something on people's computers or anything. So that's incompetech.com. So if you're looking for royalty-free music, Josie Weatherford is here, settling in with my tea and knitting for the show. Brilliant stuff, Josie. Well, I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you're knitting something woolly to keep you warm for the rest of the winter. It could drag on for a while, as you know. We've known it to snow in March and April in Ireland. Anthony, are you sure you want us to comment? Rabbit hole danger sign. Yeah, just let me know when the first one opens. Debbie Sheehy is in the house watching from Melbourne, where it's early on Tuesday morning. Hello, Debbie. Happy Tuesday morning to you. Hope you're in good form. Sotonar is off. We'll catch on the replay. Slán Lat, Sotonar, take it easy. Togo buggy. Anne McCallum is in the house. There you go. Minus 18 Celsius. Feels like minus 28. And lots of places a lot colder. Looking forward to the episode as always. Wow. Yeah. We'll be looking, come here. Soon enough, we'll be looking back at this and we'll be saying, do you remember in January we were all comparing temperatures and there was snow and ice and frost and all that stuff. And we'll be like, oh, look at us now. It'll fly around. I hope. Robin Bartolomo is watching from Brisbane, Australia. We have a few southern Eastern Hemispherers watching this morning, this evening for me. But Robin, always a pleasure. Hope you're in good form down there in Brisbane. I hope the temperature is, I'm sure it is. And speaking of down under, Keith Doran is watching from Tasmania where it's sunny. I don't believe it. Tasmania, sunny. It's probably warm as well. Keith, send a few degrees. There's a few people in the Western Northern Hemisphere who need it quite badly right now. So if you can knock a few degrees off and post it, express post around the world as quickly as possible, that'd be great. Christina is watching. Christina, do you say O'Shaughnessy or O'Shaughnessy? Because I know some people. Anyway, you tell me. Hello from near Geneva. Well, a very good night to you, Christina. Thanks for tuning in. Only a few weeks until Imbolc, says Saoirse. Yes. Less than 3 weeks, I think. Yeah. 16. No. Yes. Plus 4 is 20. Oh, yeah. It is there or thereabouts 3 weeks. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't arguing. Paul McFeely is in Blanchardstown where it's -1. And all the Americans and Canadians are laughing right now. Going, sure, that's warm weather. I'd wear a t-shirt in that. And us Irish, we're going, oh, Jesus, freezing. You know, we don't know what really cold weather is like, though. We do occasionally, but not that often. Adina Sparks is here. Finally, a lovely day, 55 Fahrenheit and sunny. Wow, that's nearly 13 Celsius. Brilliant stuff, Adina. Keep that. Brendan Byrne says our cottage lies in the shadow of the mountain, so the frost never leaves, just builds up. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, can imagine what that's like. Yeah, living in a bit of a hole, as to say, and the sun not getting in there in the winter. Liv A. Cross says hello. Good evening, Liv. Hope you're in good form. Alan says thanks, Anthony. Happy New Year to you. In response to your good wishes, all of the above. Brilliant stuff. Polly Matting says Lunar/Chinese New Year coming up in a few weeks. What animal is it this year coming in China? The year of the what? Joe Butler has a rabbit. Tom King says, hello there, Anthony and the Mighty Two. It's 1,200 degrees if you're sat on the forge. An incredible evening here in the Boyne Valley. A beautiful moon looking in. Isn't it just wonderful? Yeah. Great to see it. 1,200 degrees in if you're sitting right on the forge. I would be inclined to sit back by at least a few feet from that, Tom. Kelly Nikiali is saying from the Emerald City to the Emerald Isle. Very good afternoon to you, Kelly. Hope you're in good form and that you're not too cold. Donna Ferrer is saying it's cold and a bit snowy in Maryland, but not the bitter cold elsewhere throughout the country. Small mercies and all that, Donna. Hey, yes, indeed. So Nagati Arihi says, okay, the hot spell is followed by a little rain. It's 21 Celsius. Humidity 90%. Okay, that's uncomfortable. And that's in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Wow. Kathleen Kane is saying it's -4 Fahrenheit in Colorado. A lot of Colorado is mountainous territory, isn't it, or is it just some of it? I'm mistaken? How much of Colorado, is uh, on a high altitude? Catherine Fitzgerald Schramek is saying it's freezing 32 Fahrenheit on the Texas coast. Yeah, Texas. Snow in Texas. Wow, who'd have thought? Catherine Cleary, always great to join you and the great community from a most beautiful San Diego, California. Which was another yearning. Yes, well, I did say hello to you already, Catherine. Apologies. Seeing some repeated comments here. Gerard O'Dwyer, Gaelic Ireland as a society ran for over 1600 years to its demise after 1610. Gaelic leaders identified as Gaelic, not Celtoi. I have looked and found no reference in Gaelic annals to Celtic. I don't use the word Celtic in my work. Yeah, for that, well, mainly for that reason, because Celtic is like Iron Age culture that was supposed to have emerged from Hallstatt, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it's just too tenuous, the whole thing, to be honest. Brian at LOA is telling us it's 34 Fahrenheit in northern Georgia, in the mountains. Sorry, in North Georgia mountains, with a dusting of snow. That's 1.11111 degrees Celsius. Wow, that's cold. But not as cold as others, but it's still cold. And cold enough for a dusting of snow, Brian. Gordon Farrell is in Longford, I think. Hello, Gordon. Always a pleasure to welcome you, my good friend. The moon has been amazing, says Donna. Glad you mentioned it. Nick Constable book, Ancient Ireland, interesting book. I don't have it. Can't comment, Samantha. Is it about mythology? Nick Constable, Ancient Ireland. We will get going with the list soon because conscious of the fact that it's 22 minutes past 8 already. It never rains in California, says John Inman. But Cole Porter says, hates California. It's cold and it's damp. We've had buckets of rain. Wow. David Connellan is reporting -4 in Halifax, going down to -9. Is that Fahrenheit or Celsius? Still cold anyway. Ancient Ireland, Nick Constable. An overview of Ireland's beginnings from prehistory to the Treaty of Limerick in 1691. I don't know it. I'll have to look out for it. Like I need more books. Randy Dowdy is saying snowed at home in North Carolina, mid-30s. It sounds like plenty of you are going to be making snowmen and snow persons, if you insist, and snowball fights. Anne is telling Tom not to be bragging about how lovely it is to be at the forge. Don't be making them jealous, Tom. Yes, very legit, sir. Used it many times, says David, and that's in reference to the website for the royalty-free music. Brilliant stuff. Arc Astronomy Database, Ty, is in the house. Been really busy lately, but still had to stop in. Hope you're all well. Oh, good form. Ty, relatively good form now. That's a lot of books there behind you, Catherine. You don't know the half of it. That's only a fraction of what's here. They're stacked up in stacks on the floor at this stage. There's nowhere else to put them. And still I keep buying books. But then, when I see something, and I'm like, I have to have that. And it just comes home with me. What can I say? Nanu73 says, hi, Anthony. Good evening from the frosty but sunny southeast. A very good evening to you, and I hope it's not too frosty. With 7-3 in your handle, are you into ham radio as a matter of interest? I'm not sure if we've had you on the live stream before, and if I know who you are, I'm sorry for asking, but when people come up with handles, I have a tendency to ask what your name is, but please, that's just so I can give you a proper welcome, as it were. Paul says, I think our cold is worse because it's a wet cold as opposed to a dry cold. That you do have a point. Nagati says Nagati is like the word for tribe in Maori, so like the Irish or Gaelic word tua. Ah, brilliant. Very nice. I like that. Full Irish Gary's in the house. Good evening, great and good tua. Another fine day on the sun. You're not wrong, Gary. It was a beautiful day for photography and video, I can tell you. Anyway, you need to become a patron to see some of that. It is the year of the rabbit, Anthony will be. It is the year of the rabbit. Anthony will be in seventh heaven. Yes, it's the year of the rabbit hole. Helen is recommending an archaeological book, which is Hunter-Gatherer Ireland by Graham Warren. Readable assessment of Irish Mesolithic. Sounds very interesting, Helen. I don't have it, and I've heard of it, and I should have it. And I will have it before too long. Excuse me for a second, just getting slightly distracted here, folks. Hunter-Gatherer. Order, credit card, no, debit, Visa. Hang on a second. Enter Visa card number. Authenticate on the phone. Boop, boop, boop. Where was I? Sorry. Yes. Could you suggest a Cailleach winter story? No, not right now, Rex, but what I can recommend is a book that's on the list, and I'm not sure. It's probably... It wasn't in the top 10, was it? It probably should be, but I mean, everything should be, and there's so much. Yeah. I can't even read my own handwriting. That's how bad it is. Sorry. Yeah, it's on the list, but I haven't. So, yeah. Anyway, yes is the answer, but not a story in particular, a book. La tenuous, says Christina. Exactly. La tenuous. Kathleen is saying Denver, Colorado is known as the Mile High City, 5,280 feet, I presume, above sea level. And it's along the Front Range before you get into the Continental Divide. Goes like tired from there. Our 14ers, that's 14,000 feet, are famous. I presume you're talking about mountains. Wow. What do you all think about the Celtic rituals by Alexei Kondratiev, Celtic reconstructionist, historically fascinating, asks John. I do or did have a Kondratiev article on my website at some point. Is he out of the same school as Madame Blavatsky? Yeah, I couldn't comment right now. Maybe others will have an opinion. Kathleen is glad to know that I don't use the word Celtic in my work. It's become such a jargon word, and many people I hear use it can't actually define it. Don't mean to be snobbish. I just like accuracy where possible. Well, so do I, but yeah, I don't use it. Although publishers will apparently say put Celtic on the cover, even if you're against it, because it'll sell more. No, the 7.3 is nothing to do with that, I'm afraid, although that sounds fun. I'm not here very often. Time is at a premium, I'm afraid. Well, that's no problem at all. You're very welcome whenever you can make it. But in ham radio, when we say 7.3, that's our way of saying goodbye. We say 7.3. Old man or young lady. Wow. So work that out for yourself, I know. Saw you on Amazon Prime today, says Sandra. It was amazing. What was I in? Amazon Prime. What show was that? Was that the Unexplained with what's your man narrating? Captain Kirk. What's his name? William Shatner. Was that it? Or was it a different one? No, not Blavatsky, says John. Okay, fair enough. That's all right. That's Theosophy, yes. Okay, I've caught up. Wow. He taught Celtic mythology and language at Irish Arts Centre Manhattan for years. Wow. And as I always say, if you read a book about Celtic mythology, probably 80 to 90% of what you read in that book is actually Irish mythology. So there you go. Right, let us get going. I have the task now at almost exactly 8:30, half an hour in, 7:30 exactly. I have the gargantuan task of trying to identify numbers 11 to 20 on a list of top 50 books about Irish mythology. And ironically, not ironically, tragically, there will be more than 50 books. I will have to leave some off the list. Should I extend it and do a top 60 or top 70? I don't know. So, just to reiterate, so far we have number one, MacKillop's Oxford Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. That's James MacKillop. A brilliant one-stop shop, as it were. Followed very, very closely by Daithí O'Hogan's Encyclopedia of Irish Mythology. Followed by T.F. O'Reilly's Early Irish History and Mythology, first published in 1946, but still very much highly respected and regarded. Number four, not always highly respected by everyone, is Lady Gregory's Complete Irish Mythology, Gods and Fighting Men and Cuchulainn of Muirhevna, two separate books in one, available quite cheaply secondhand. A very good introduction to some of the myths of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the Red Branch, and of course Toynbee, Cuillinge and Cuchulainn and all of that. In fifth place, speaking of Toynbee, Cuillinge, is Thomas Kinsella's translation of the Táin. There are other translations. I should have mentioned that last week, and I'm not sure that I did. There's a very nice translation by Ciarán Carson, the late Ciarán Carson, which is accessible and nice. If you're studying Irish mythology in a university here, you'll be recommended a particular. Hang on, please. Yes, Cecile O'Reilly's translation of the Táin is the one that you'll be. So that's a more scholarly version if you wanted it. In sixth place is Charles Squire's book about Celtic mythology, published, I think, 1912, and available in several versions. And I'm not sure that I did show you. Oh, here we're backtracking now. Squire. So I just want to show you. When I say available in several formats, so this is the one. This is one of the first books I bought about Celtic mythology. First published in 1912 as Celtic Myth and Legend, Poetry and Romance by the Gresham Publishing Company. This one is a Tiger Books International publication, published by Senate, which is an imprint of Tiger. I bought this in 1999, but this was published in 1998. But there is a newer hardback version of it that's just called Celtic Mythology. Now, what I love about this book is it's hardback, it's got a dust jacket, and the print is lovely, and it's all very nice. What do I not like about it? Well, I'll tell you what I don't like about it. I couldn't find... and I'm not going to go looking now because I'm backtracking. This is back to the top 10, and I really need to be on 11 to 20. This doesn't mention the author, I don't think. The author's name is not featured anywhere in it, which I think is a terrible shame. But this is the same as the paperback version, but one caution is that I had the feeling that this was missing a little bit. This wasn't as complete as this. So this is the one you're really looking for, unless, of course, you want to buy the original. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. We have to move on. We have to move on to 11 to 20. Which we're going to do presently. So that was number 6. Number 7 was Cross and Slover's Ancient Irish Tales. Lovely book. Number 8 was Prunchas MacCama's Celtic Mythology. Number 9 was Ireland, A Journey into Lost Time by P.A. O'Seachan, on the basis that it is a beautiful book. And number 10 was Celtic Heritage by Rees and Rees. Right. So I need to find the next 10. So in terms of, we're trying to learn about Irish mythology, and we're trying to learn from reliable sources. There's a lot of stuff. There's a certain amount of stuff that would fit into a bracket that we might call alternative, maybe a little bit fringe. People who take the stories and interpret or bend them or add to them, and work that is semi-fictitious and all the rest. So I'm going to steer away from that. I'm assuming that you all want to learn about Irish mythology from good sources, good reliable sources. Okay, so bear with me a second here. Yeah, I'm just looking at a few here. This is tough. So there's some that are definitely in the top 15. Okay, so I think I'm going to use a red pen this time for numbers 11 to 20. I will, when we're finished this mini series, I will compile the entire list from top to bottom, with title, author, year of publication or year of reprint, etc., etc. Give you as much information as possible, and I'll make that available on the Mythical Ireland website when we're done. I think, look, don't take this. So this is a top 50, and my ranking of them is my own personal preference. And I admit that in places it's very difficult for one to leapfrog another, which is why this whole process is so difficult. But I am going to say that I think in terms of the next 5, so numbers 11 to 15, there is a very, very good book about the Tuatha De Danann, a very recent modern book, a very scholarly look at the mythology of the Tuatha De Danann. And I think that it's all very well reading the likes of Squire and the likes of Lady Gregory. But sometimes I think people have a tendency to read certain material and then romanticize, which is why I'm recommending in number 11, I'm recommending Mark Williams's Ireland's Immortals. I will show you what it looks like. You'll have to give me a second because I have to move books and I have to move stuff out of the way to get. I have to move some books out of the way. That's how bad it is. There's so little room now. I have to move books just to get to other books. 1 second. I also have to move my owl, my guardian owl, who guards my books. I also have to move my Sigma Art 20mm f1.4 lens. Oh, that's a beautiful lens. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So in 11th place, for me anyway, and it's a very close call. It could easily be in the top 10. It could be easily number 15, but we have to rank them somehow. Ireland's Immortals, A History of the Gods of Irish Myth by Mark Williams. Not to be confused with the snooker player, if you're into snooker. Not that Mark Williams. This was published by, and I'll tell you when, published in 2016 by Princeton University Press. We did look at this last week, didn't we? But I didn't put it on the top 10. But it was, I mean, it's so very close. Yeah, this is very, very. I think I'll give you a brief. I'll give you a brief synopsis as it is contained in the flap, or the what do you call that? The dust jacket. Christina wants to know, where did you rank T.F. O'Reilly? I said that, but it was number 4, I think. I think it's a very important book, even if some scholars think some of the ideas have been superseded. I mean, I did mention last week he was a little bit focused on the idea of a single otherworld deity. Just making sure I haven't. CK Tilloston says Blasket Island descended here. Any lower from there? No, no. What I have is I have a selection of books. I could do an entire episode. Okay, let's just take it. Here we go. Rabbit hole. I need to take a note of that. I have actually, I have at least a dozen books about Irish islands and their heritage and folklore and mythology and history. At least a dozen about places like Blasket and Tory Island and others. So yeah, at some point that's something I will do. Josie is recommending Silva Gaelica by Standish O'Grady around 1900. Work my way through slowly. Amazing stuff. Is that available as a facsimile reprint, Josie, or is it the only thing, or can it be? Is it out of copyright? Can it be downloaded as a PDF or something? Okay, I'm going to have to just for the moment. There's a huge amount of comments, and look, it's brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to have to carry on. Yes, Ireland's Immortals tells the story of one of the world's great mythologies, the first account of the gods of Irish myth to take in the whole sweep of Irish literature in both the nation's languages. The book describes how Ireland's pagan divinities were transformed into literary characters in the medieval Christian era, and how they were recast again during the Celtic revival of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. A lively narrative of supernatural beings and their fascinating and sometimes bizarre stories. Mark Williams's comprehensive history traces how these gods, known as the Tuatha Danann, have shifted shape across the centuries, from Iron Age cult to medieval saga to today's young adult fiction. We meet the heroic Lugh, the Morrigan crow goddess of battle, the fire goddess Bridget, who moonlights as a Christian saint, the mist-cloaked sea god Manannán mac Lir, and the ageless fairies who inspired J.R.R. Tolkien's immortal elves. Medieval clerics speculated that the Irish divinities might be devils, angels, or enchanters. W.B. Yeats invoked them to reimagine the national condition, while his friend George Russell beheld them in visions and understood them to be local versions of Hindu deities. The book also tells how the Scots repackaged Ireland's divine beings as the gods of the Gael on both sides of the sea, and how Irish mythology continues to influence popular culture far beyond Ireland. An unmatched chronicle of the Irish gods, Ireland's Immortals illuminates why these mythical beings have loomed so large in the world's imagination for so long. What I can't tell you is the price of that book. Somebody might be able to tell us where we can get that right now and how much it costs. But thank you. That's number 11 on the list. Now, number 12. Oh, this is difficult. This is so difficult. Okay, so in terms of scholarly brilliance and comprehensive study, so last week, oh, hang on, the Festival of Lunasa wasn't in the top 10, but we did talk about it last week. Yeah, so these are difficult. So, as I say, don't take the exact position as being Bible. This is one person's opinion. And don't forget that there's probably books I haven't read, believe it or not. Okay, so there's 3 coming up. I'm going to take them all out from their positions on the shelves. No, okay. I'm going to relegate one just for a moment. Or am I? So, McNeil. Okay, so a certain amount of what was in the top 10 wouldn't be considered wholly Holly. I mean WHOLLY. Wholly. Thank you, Anne, for reminding me about that. So I said last week that because Williams's Ireland's Immortal is a bit deeper than an introduction. That's why it's not in the top 10. So the top 10 is sort of like a not too scholarly introduction, but reputable material. And now, I suppose, in the 11 to 20 slots, we're going to have a lot more academic work. But some of it's just brilliant and so accessible. So, which of these comes first? I think, in terms of its overall, the overall spread of material, I think that the number 12 slot has to go to Moira McNeill's Festival of Lunasa. And the reason it's not in the top 10 is, as I said last week, and as Anne McCallum has just reminded me, it is the comprehensive nature of it. It's, that if you hadn't dipped in out of Squire, MacKillop, O'Hogan, O'Rahilly, Celtic Heritage, Cross and Slover, Macona, you might feel that you were in too deep with Lunasa because it's so big and because there's so much in it. It's 700 pages. It's an enormous tome. The only thing about this one is that it's out of print, I believe, now. Somebody might confirm that. Before we move on, William's book is at Amazon for $23, says Michael Pike. ABE Books for, we don't know. $23 for William's book is cheap, so grab it. Yes, on ABE Books for $90. So there you go. You can get a copy for $23. Grab it. Paperback versus hardback is price difference. Yeah. Who needs the paper? Look, the hardback is lovely to have, but if you've got tons of shelf space, fine. And if you've loads of money, buy all hardbacks. But in my case, I would go for the paperback because it's smaller, it's lighter, and it's cheaper. And it's the same thing, basically. So the festival of Lunasa, yeah, it's mostly about the Festival of Lunasa, but you have to understand this is a festival that's celebrated everywhere in Ireland. And it's the geographical spread of this and the amount of information and data in it is just incredible. But although written by someone who's considered a wonderful scholar, it's accessible. It's just the size of it that makes it slightly daunting. So anybody tell us how much, where can we get the Festival of Lunasa and for how much? I'm going to put that in the number 12 place. Moira McNeill's The Festival of Lunasa is in 12th. So Barbara Murphy, you must have shelf space. I'm joking. Moira McNeill, Festival of Lunasa. I wonder. Okay, just looking on Amazon. Not everybody will like hardcover, £286. Okay. Yeah. Helen is telling us on Amazon $260. Yeah. Remember that the first edition was in 2 volumes, but this is a single volume reprint from, what did I say last week, 2008 or something like that? Yeah, 2008. University College Dublin. Horla Velogus Éireann, which is the folklore commission of Ireland, isn't it? First published 1962, reprinted 1982, reprinted 2008. But I think it's out of print, so your only chance is to get it secondhand. Now, I know that I've seen a copy of it from time to time in Michael Slavin's old bookshop on the Hill of Tara. So if you really, really, really want it, he is an option. He has an email address and he's on the phone. You could ring or email and say, "Listen, Michael, I really want Moira McNeill's. Have you got a copy?" I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything out as I do this 10, 11, and 12. So we're going to move on to 13. I just want to make sure that I'm not. Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to. Yeah. Yeah. So again, the order of these isn't set in stone like megalithic art. Michael Trott is saying, well, that's a pricey book you just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I think, new copies of it are 45 or 50 euros. I always say, when a book's out of print, and you don't know whether it's going to come back into print, and it's a really good book, and you want it, then it's worth the money, But maybe you don't think so, and that's fine, So next on my list, it's hard to separate these two. I'm going to yeah. This one is not strictly mythological. But it's brilliant, and it's well known in academic circles and highly respected, and has been since it was first published in, I think this was published in the 1990s, if I'm not mistaken. First published in the 1990s. Let me just check this. Oh, actually, sorry. It was actually first published in 1973 and republished in 2001. Anyway, let's get to it. Number 13. Let me just check what has broken. It's not glass anyway. It's perfectly okay. 322 Messengers asking if any of these books have an audio version. The simple answer to that is I just don't know. So you'll have to do your own research on that and find out. I imagine some of them definitely not. Some of them possibly, some of them maybe definitely, but I just haven't a clue, unfortunately, Yeah, Kathleen Kane is saying if you can't afford books, at least for US libraries, an interlibrary loan is a good option. No charge in most cases. I was once able to borrow a 3-set volume edition of the Annals of the Four Masters. Many pages hadn't been opened. The edition was old enough that you had to open the pages with a letter opener. Wow, I've had that with one of the Metrical Dingenicus volumes. So great, Kathleen, thank you for reminding me. I did mention it last week. Libraries, if you can't afford or whatever, Anyway, Irish Kings and High Kings by Francis J. Byrne. If this is, I suppose, right, we're getting, so you've read the top 10 and you're like, oh man, this stuff is fascinating. There's so much richness. And I now have an introductory knowledge of Irish mythology, and you want to go deeper. So that's what these volumes are about. Irish Kings and High Kings is an analysis, Francis J. Byrne is the author, is an analysis of the nature of early Irish kingship using analytic and genealogical material to interpret Irish saga and legend. Professor Byrne examines the unique blend of pagan tribalism and Christian monasticism which characterizes the political landscape of early Ireland, exploring the nature of the traditional 5/5 of Ireland, the mythology of Tara, and the growth of the high kingship of Tara. Numerous maps and genealogical tables illustrate the development of the great over-kingships of Ulster, Leinster, Connacht, and Cashel, the confrontation of St. Patrick with the Irish kings, the relations between St. Columcille and his royal cousins, and the ecclesiastical politics of Armagh, Kildare, and Clonmacnoise are described and analysed. This new edition, 2001, includes an essay on the emergence of Irish surnames, additional notes, and corrigenda to the first edition, and review of recent field works. Recent work in the field, should I say. More than 20 years after its original publication, Irish Kings and High Kings remains unsurpassed as an overview of this central theme in Irish history. Francis J. Byrne is Emeritus Professor of Early Irish History at University College Dublin and is an editor of the Royal Irish Academy's A New History of Ireland. Irish Kings and High Kings by Francis J. Byrne, coming in at number 13 on my list. Let me know, some of you, Josie, etc., some of you who've read a lot of the material that we're recommending. Do you agree or disagree? Please do let me know. Debbie says, I got my copy of Festival of Lunasa from Michael Slavin's bookshop at Tara. He was very hesitant to let it go, as he said it was so precious. However, given he is a bookstore, he said he would agree to part with it. It was a very enlightening experience with him. Michael's own books about Tara and the manuscripts are great too. He's on the list, by the way. Debbie, yeah, fabulous story. And that's it, you know. Yes, indeed. Josie says, I saw the Festival of Lunasa once at Michael Slavin's shop for around 150 euros. I should have grabbed it, but I didn't, unfortunately. And when I went back, it was gone. I'm lucky that I bought mine when it was republished. And I either paid something in the region of 40 to 50 euros for it. And now that I look back, I think it's worth every cent and more. So, folks, this isn't aimed at you guys at all. We're all friends here, and I know that you're all passionate and you're all interested, right? There are people in this world, as you probably well know, who know the price of everything but the value of nothing, as we say in Ireland. Sometimes it's all about value and it's not about price. Anyway, that's easy to say, and some people are not privileged, or some people don't have the funds. Some people don't have the financial wherewithal to invest in a library of books, and that's perfectly okay, which is why we recommend libraries, which is why we recommend thrift stores, secondhand bookshop, especially the secondhand bookshops, which are part of a thrift store, which they're not specialists. You will often find, as I told you, I think last week or maybe recently, a lady told me when Island of the Setting Sun was out of print and copies on Amazon were selling or appeared to be selling for 1,000 euros or more, a lady walked into a bookshop in Limerick and saw a copy for sale for 5 euros and couldn't believe her luck, because it was worth an awful lot more than that. So those, I don't know, in the States, if you have thrift stores where part of it's books but part of it's other stuff, bric-a-brac, we have them here, charity stores, a lot of them. And I find they're the sort of places where they don't have an individual volunteer or member of staff who has any sort of expert knowledge in this stuff. So they'll price a book. I mean, I'll give you an example. I think I told you this before, but I got a hardback first edition of Martin Brennan's The Stars and the Stones last year. And bear in mind that Martin has passed away since I bought this. Look how much I paid for it. €3. It's worth at least 50. But one of those charity thrift shops, and I wouldn't part with it now. I mean, you know. Oh my God! Christina says it's 1,049 euros on Amazon.fr hardback. I presume you're talking about Maura McNeil's. Are you? I think so. Not Francis Byrne's Irish Kings and High Kings. I presume you're talking about Maura McNeil. Anyway, we need to move. Are we okay? No, we're okay for time. But we do need to keep moving. So that's number 13. It's very difficult to kind of separate these. We're going to. Again, the exact order of these not written in stone. A very good book. We're going to step back a little bit in terms of, so you've read the top 10 and now you're trying to say, well, how reliable is Irish mythology in terms of when it was written down, and how much of that can we trace back to what might be original earlier pre-Christian material, because a lot of it was written down by ecclesiastical scribes. They weren't all monks, by the way. Some of them were lay scribes. Some of them were bards who, especially after the Anglo-Norman invasion, basically went to work in the monasteries as scribes, but still retained all of their knowledge of the sagas and the metrical stuff and the genealogies and the Dentianicus and stuff like that. Anyway, this comes highly recommended because it's so interesting. The author I did interview or have a lovely conversation with during the lockdowns on the Live Irish Myths in Conversation series. This was published in 2016, and this is a first edition hardback, and it is called In Search of the Irish Dreamtime, Archaeology and Early Irish Literature, and the author is none other than J.P. Mallory, whose probably his more famous book is The Origins of the Irish. Wonderful scholar, very interesting man, an archaeologist, and writing about Irish literature, and particularly in the era that the literature, in the era that the mythology was written down in Ireland. What is in the myth that reflects the era in which it was written down? And so we have this wonderful book. It's accessible, doesn't require specialist knowledge, but I wouldn't recommend that in the top 10 simply because I would like you to have read, say, Squire and MacKillop and Lady Gregory, Cross and Slover, and Macana, giving yourself an introduction before you get. It's not that it's heavy; it's just that you would have to, I think, to enjoy it, to get the best from it. You would have to, I think, not have to, but it would be preferable for you to have read some of the material. So anyway, at the time I bought that, it cost me €25.50. I'm not sure if anyone. Michael Trott is saying the Kings and High Kings of Ireland. What about it? And McCallum, wow, is not teaching my set dance class tonight as it's cancelled due to weather. I've traded in the remainder of my pot of tea for a glass of wonderful wine. Fantastic. Share it round. Come on. Pour everyone a glass. I'm joking, of course. I was just thinking of that book. Absolutely excellent. I presume you're talking about Mallory's Dreamtime, Josie. Yes. So that will go into number 14 on my list. But again, bearing in mind that this is going to be a top 50. And for some of you who end up reading a lot of this, you may have a different opinion as to what should be further up and what should be lower down. So that's perfectly okay. Anyway, that's highly recommended. I think that's still in print. I'll just do a quick J.P. Mallory Irish Dreamtime. Yes, Blackwell's free delivery, €21. Amazon UK, €17.18, but £14.78 postage. Don't, if you're in Ireland, order anything from the UK, or just be careful when you do with customs and all that rubbish. Eason's in Ireland have it for €26.55. Not sure outside of Ireland. I'm sure if you do a quick search for it, it's in print and available. So that's good news. Number 15, and the reason it's not in the top 10 is nothing to do with the fact that it's not a brilliant book. It is a brilliant book. It's written by a scholar. It's written in such a way that it is entirely accessible to a wider general audience, but it deals with a very specific subject, which is why it's not in the top 10. No point in recommending a top 10 to you if, as I said, the purpose from the beginning was, well, we know nothing about Irish mythology. How do we learn about Irish mythology? So here's the top 10. If you read these, or you don't have to read them from cover to cover and have a comprehensive knowledge of them, but if you read to an extent a lot of it, you'll come away with, so now I have a pretty good idea. But if you wanted to hone in on one particular area and one particular deity, one particular subject, and you wanted an almost exhaustive study of that deity or that character, that personage, that was both scholarly, in other words, very reliable, but accessible, you could not do much better than the wonderful The Book of the Cailleach by Gearóid Ó Crúlach. Now, the subheading of that book is Stories of the Wise Woman Healer. It is a little bit like Francis J. Byrne in terms of it would be very highly respected. It would be a a work that is quoted and referenced in many other works, and a good idea of how a good idea of what I thought of it can be evidenced by the number of underlined passages and margin notes that I made. That's just 2 pages, just to give you an example. When I get a really good book that excites me and that it's just so packed with fascinating information, it tends to turn into a book preserver's hell, actually, because of all the pencil and even highlighter marks. They are imaginative products. We're talking about here the Cailleach and Ban Fassa stories. They're imaginative products of past Irish vernacular cultural tradition, but have the capacity to contribute creatively to the cultural imagination of today's world too, which is, by the way, one of the greatest aspects of mythology, not just Irish mythology, but of course, as I study Irish mythology, I can say this, in ways that can be guided and legitimated by reference to the cosmological and historical context of their composition. Mythology can continue to be relevant and its meaning reimagined for today's world. It doesn't have to be consigned and confined to the past. Rather than being static, outmoded, or regressive, these materials of Irish folk tradition can constitute a creative contribution to the life of the imagination today and to the imaginative enrichment of individuals who care to engage with them in creative ways. So, published by Cork University Press, 2003, reprinted in 2006 and 2007, which tells me that it's in popular demand, or it was. And when did I obtain my copy? Because I usually date. I actually only got it in 2016. Is that still in print? Well, we'll find out. The Book of the Cailleach. So that is my number. What did I say? That's 15. So we're at 7 minutes past 9. So I need to keep moving. The Book of the Cailleach is my number 15. Okay. 30 euros in Amazon UK. Blackwell's have it for 30 euros. Cork University Press website seems to have it. $35, 26 pounds sterling, or 29 euros. So there you go, folks. I'm going to paste that link into the comments if you want to get yourself a copy. Still available direct from the publisher. It's a fascinating read, says Michael Pike. Polly Matting says, Highlighter Fest, always a good sign of a solid book. I know, I agree, right? And pencil marks. Josie had said something. Josie, I was just thinking of that. No, this one. This one helped with my MA thesis on the Cailleach. I can imagine that was probably your number one source. Fascinating stuff. So that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Ireland's Immortals by Mark Williams in 11th place, for me anyway. Maura O'Neill, or is it Maura MacNeil? It's MacNeil, isn't it? Sorry. Maura MacNeil's The Festival of Lunasa in 12th. Irish Kings and High Kings by Francis J. Byrne in 13th. In Search of the Irish Dreamtime by J.P. Mallory in 14th. And The Book of the Cailleach by Gearóid O'Crullach in 15th. Now, I need to fill out the next 5. I'm scanning the whole list, and I'm just being aware of there's so much stuff, Oh. Sorry, I need to silence my phone. It keeps making noise. It's distracting me. I hope it's not distracting you too much. Apologies. Okay. Yeah, this one definitely is in the top 20 because it is relatively short, it is affordable, and it is excellent. And I have more than one copy of it. All I need to do right now is put my hand on one of those copies. And you'll be delighted to hear that it is in. I hope it's still in print, but you should be able to get a second-hand copy really cheap. It's published by Penguin Classics. And this one, actually, that's the reason this one has lost its value, because the page with the original publishing information has been torn out of it. Anyway, I'll show you the other version in a second. It is Early Irish Myths and Sagas. It's a Penguin classic. The editor, not the author, I think it's the editor or the translator, is Jeffrey Gantz. I'll type that into the comments. Jeffrey Gantz. I'll get the other Chris Moore. I'll get the other sort of good condition copy just when I find it. I nearly always know where everything is, but I can't just see it from here. I know, says you. Well, if you stand up, you might see it, Anthony. But I should be able to see it from here, and I can't. And I'm just wondering. So I'm just going to make a confession here now, folks. So just keep this between us. This is private. I have a stack of books on the bedside locker. There's a pile of books, so that if I'm going to bed and I'm not tired enough to go sleep straight away and I want to do a bit of reading, there's a pile of books. There's 12, 15, 20 books on the bedside locker. And I think my other copy of Jeffrey Gantz's Early Irish Myths and Sagas might be there. But anyway, I'll just read a little bit from the cover. Probably first written down around the 8th century AD, these early Irish stories represent the oral tradition of the Iron Age Celts who flourished in Europe during the 7 centuries before Christ. Ignore that, because this was obviously written several decades ago when that was the current. But like a lot of that Celtic stuff has gone by the wayside now. Building the economic, social, and artistic foundations of the continent as they did, their myths and tales can be said to be the earliest voices from the dawn of Western civilization. Written in beautiful, elusive language, the main tension is between reality and fantasy, and the themes foreshadow those which preoccupied Yeats, Synge, and Joyce. Again and again, is it Synge, Synge? How do you pronounce that poet's name? Again and again, the energy and pride of the reality is allied powerfully with the magic and beauty of fantasy, creating a world where men mingle freely with the gods, and where the afterworld is an extension of this heroic, romantic, and idealistic picture. So just to give you an idea of what's in it, the wooing of Etain, Tuchmark Etain, which is a very important story about Newgrange, about many other things, but one of the biggest and most important stories connected with Shean Vrew, She Mochanog. The destruction of Dardurga's hostel, which we read in a 4-part episode during the first year of Live Irish Myths, I think 2020. The Dream of Angus, Ashlinga Anguso. The cattle raid of Frech, Tawnbo Frech, we also featured that. The labour pains of the Ullad and the twins of Macha, which are some of the rem scale of Tawnbo Cúilge. The birth of Cuchulainn, the boyhood deeds of Cuchulainn, the death of Aoife's only son, which are all related to the Ulster cycle and Tawnbo Cúilge. The wasting sickness of Cuchulainn and the only jealousy of Emer. The tale of Macdaho's pig, the intoxication of the Ulstermen, or the intoxication of the Ullad, if you prefer. Brickrew's feast. I think that might be the last chapter. Oh no, the exile of the sons of Ishlu or Ishnuk. So brilliant, and you could read it probably. I don't know. Depends on how good a reader you are. It's 250 pages. You could read it in a couple of days. Or if you're reading it all day long, you could probably read it in a day, maybe a day and a half. But that's Early Irish Myths and Sagas, translated by Jeffrey Gantz. So that's one that could be in the top 10 in terms of its accessibility. It's going to be cheap. You can get I think there are tons of secondhand copies of it. So let me just quickly, somebody may have done this already. Early Irish Myths and Sagas. So just on ABE books, £2. This is abe.co.uk, £2.99, £4.89. Yeah, so I mean, it's not going to cost an arm and a leg. Gans, that's number 16. Okay, so let's just slow down again. Yeah, great book, great book, great book. Just hang on a second. Helen is saying ordered it weeks ago. Pony Express has been delayed. Is that Gans's book? Josie says Gans's book is good because they're basically translations of the original stories. Okay, now I need to choose 17, 18, 19, 20 to round off this episode. And I'm seeing a big list. I mean, I have 50, at least 50 on my list. And there are some that stand out for reasons of, well, they're brilliant interpretations. Gans is just a translation of material. You may want something that goes deeper in terms of looking for meaning. You may want something that brings that meaning into the modern world. So, for instance, Moriarty, John Moriarty's in search. What is it called? What is it called? Because there's so many brilliant Moriarty books. Invoking Ireland, yeah. This is tough now. This part is tough. It's like what to put in the top 20 and what to leave out of the top 20. And believe me, I have friends who are on this list, people I consider brilliant scholars who are friends. And I have to say, please do not be insulted in any way. It's so difficult to order these. There'll be a top 50 or 60 as a result of these episodes. Where each one occupies a slot, that's a movable feast, really, Okay, so one very, very important book that it's not in the top 10 purely because the top 10 is all about you as someone who's coming to Irish myth, getting a good feel for what's in there, getting a good introduction to the material. 11 to 20 is in part about continuing that, but in part it's about building on that and going further. And it's in part accessing the sources for some of what's in the top 10. So, a student of Irish myth will see reference to this all over the place and will begin to say, hang on a second, I think I need that in my library. And for that reason, I think it should be in the top 20. And that is everybody who studies Irish mythology and wants to go a little bit further than just have a rudimentary knowledge of it has to have in their library a copy of Sanas Cormac, better known as Cormac's Glossary. He says, while trying to remove it from the shelf, where it is very firmly wedged between other volumes. Apologies for that. So this is a facsimile reprint. It's a cheap facsimile reprint from Alpha Editions. Can't remember how much I paid for it. I don't think it was much more than €10. But it's facsimile. So this is the one that was edited by Whitley Stokes. And I see John O'Donovan was involved. Published in 1868, Calcutta. Translated and annotated by the late John O'Donovan, and edited with notes and indices by Whitley Stokes. My apologies. So, Cormac MacCuillenan was the High King of Cashel, but he was also a bishop. We've spoken about him, and we've mentioned Cormac's glossary in many episodes. There are 1,400 entries. It's basically like a late 9th century, or I think it's late 9th century, isn't it? Or early 10th. I think it's 9th century. Dictionary or encyclopedia. It refers to things that, for instance, we've know. It refers to words that we don't find in manuscripts. Words that, and the meaning of which had long fallen out of use. But in there we have, say, Dian Cecht, a name for the sage of the leechcraft of Ireland, one of the two of the Danann chief deities. We've mentioned of Bridget, and as I said before, the only Bridget Cormac talks about in the 9th century is the goddess, not the saint. Yeah, you know, I think it's just one of those things that even if you haven't got a physical copy, you'll want a digital copy, because as you get a little bit further, you've read your top 10, now you're going deeper. You're going deeper with Festival of Lunasa, Irish Kings and High Kings, the Book of the Cailleach, etc. And throughout a lot of the more scholarly work, you'll see Cormac's glossary being mentioned time and time and time and time again. And you'll get to the stage where you'll say, I just have to have this. And the great thing is, you can get yourself a facsimile reprint, and it's not going to cost much. Yeah, okay. We are pressing on. Cormac's glossary. That is number, what did I say? That's number 17, isn't it? 17. Okay. Oh man, this is just getting so difficult. I don't know. I don't know. So last week I mentioned yeah, this is difficult. Again, when you're reading mythology and you're reading your top 10 and your top 15, you'll see reference to these things. We mentioned them last week, and I didn't include them in the top 10, but I think they have to be included in the top 20, and that is, so I'm going to put in 18th place, I'm going to put Laura Gawala Éireann, the Book of the Takings of Ireland. Now, they were the green hardback, they're published by the, I think it's the School of Celtic Studies, available on the Royal Irish Academy website. In 5 or 6 volumes, and then the metrical Dinhianicus. The Dinhianicus, or Dinhianicus if you prefer, is the place name mythology, which is very important. And the thing about it is that you can hardly read any book about Irish mythology that won't have numerous references to both LGE, Laura Gawala Éireann, and the metrical Dinhianicus. Now, I have to also include in that the prose Dinhianicus, which we find in Stokes's Revue Celtique. You can get those volumes. I mentioned them last week. You can get those as facsimile reprints. Yeah, so I mean, now we're going just a little bit further into the myth and read all of those fascinating stories about the origins of eminent places, the eminent places of Ireland, and where they got their name from, the myths and legends about, Douth and Nouth and Tara and, Talcha and, Carmon and all of those places. Yeah, kind of has to be there. So just to give you an idea of for instance, the Mechanicus material. So you can get facsimile reprints. Edward Gwynn was the one who translated. So the Dunchianicus will have the Irish material on the left page and the English translation on the right page. That is volume 3. Probably would have cost me about €20, and then plus postage. That's Forgotten Books. So because it's a facsimile reprint, it's exactly what the original looked for, but at a much lower price. You can get the modern reprints of them from the School of Celtic Studies, and that's Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies. This was published in 1924 originally, but this is a 1991 reprint. And again, look, it's exactly the same thing. It's bound more beautifully. It's in a hardback cover. It's got the dust jacket on it. Or if you want to go really far out, I did show it to you last. I'm not going to take it down again because it's in fragile condition. I bought an original and it needs to be repaired. It needs to be looked at by a book specialist. So Dunchianicus, you have options. You can get the facsimile reprint where they're available. Won't spend a massive amount on those. You can buy the Institute for Advanced Studies modern print of those in hardback. They're beautiful, but you'll spend more. Don't know how much. Again, I reckon between 40 and 50 euros for that. Or you can get an original, and the originals, well, you're talking 200, 300, 400 euros. But do yourself a favor, unless you're wealthy and have loads of money, get the facsimile reprints. We did show these last week. I'm just going to show them to you again. Sorry, that's the wrong volume. Facsimile reprints of Revue Celtique from the 1890s. Volumes number 15 and 16, in which Whitley Stokes's Ren or Prose Dunchianicus is published. And again, each story has the Irish version first and then the English version. So I can't remember how much I paid for those, but it was somewhere in the region of maybe 20 euros each, or maybe even 30 euros each, which is a lot cheaper than trying to get your hands on an original copy of the 1895 Revue Celtique and 1894. So the Dunchianicus material, extremely valuable. Some of it is accessible, shall we say, online, as I think downloadable PDFs, and that just have to be careful about what's in and out of copyright, ABE Books, Cormac's print on demand for $44, free shipping. Yeah, I have Sanus Cormac, but I also have a volume up there that's called 3 Irish Glossaries, which features Sanus Cormac plus 2 others. I didn't pay much for them. I didn't pay much more than maybe 15 euros each. So possibly cheaper than that if you look, Josie's working her way through the Dunchianicus slowly. That's the way to do it. So am I still after all these years. Baxpiz just ordered Dreamtime used, very good condition, for $5 on Amazon. Brilliant stuff. Bargain. Super, super, super. Do you not check the used offers? Yes, I do. But I highly recommend that everybody do that, Yeah, Anne McCallum, why not call the list the first 10 an introduction, then 11 to 20 going deeper, and then 21 to 30 getting more scholarly or something like that. Exactly, yeah. Good plan. And when I publish the final list, I shall do it. Yeah, Akalov is on the list, but I mean, where to put these things, It's like, how do I prioritize any of that, And I'm just trying to think, that is 18 and 19, so I need to pick one more in the top 20. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it's not like I made life easy for myself in deciding to do this. Right. So I need to pick one. I'm going to pick one that's slightly a little bit left field. So in the top 10, I picked one that was a little bit left field, and that was P.A. O'Siachan's A Journey Ireland, A Journey into Lost Time, which I thought was a fabulous book. So I'm going to pick one that's a little bit left field now. So in other words, you're looking at something and you're going, wow, well, why am I reading this? And the reason you're reading it is just because it's a very, very fascinating, interesting piece of work and a different take on. Oh, so difficult. Because there's several that would fit the bill. Oh, I have to pick one. I don't know. Whoa, this is tough. Okay, so why don't I just tell you what the candidates are, and then just pick one. Yes, Kathleen, I will do my best to annotate and to give as much short information as possible to help guide people. So on the list for the 20th place are The Red-Haired Girl from the Bog by Patricia Monaghan, In Search of the Awesome Mystery by Father Sean O'Dynn, the late great Father Sean O'Dynn, the priest or the monk who was known by his fellow monks as the Druid. The Serpent and the Goddess by Mary Condren. And Archaeology and Celtic Myth by John Waddell. They are the contenders for number 20. It's very hard to pick one over the other. And they're all brilliant. But I have to pick one. I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick The Red-Haired Girl from the Bog by Patricia Monaghan. The landscape of Celtic myth and spirit. Again, look, we forgive a lot of these authors. I'm pretty sure Patricia Monaghan is now deceased. If she isn't, forgive me. I think she is. So ignore the Celtic because that's probably the publisher insisted on that. I loved the way Patricia Monaghan tells the story. She weaves ancient and modern, and I think she just wrote brilliantly. Anyway, so on the front cover is what do we call them? A commendation or an endorsement by Leonard Schlein, author of The Alphabet versus the Goddess, which is a book, by the way, that John Main recommended to me ages ago, which I bought and I haven't read yet. Patricia Monaghan has woven a rich, beautiful story of a nearly forgotten world. Irish myth, tale, and tradition are brought to light and burnished in an engaging style. The world of women, the goddess, the feminine power all shine through. So obviously, yes, it obviously has a bit of a feminine bent to it, but that's perfectly understandable. And remember that this was published in, I think, the 1990s, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the early 2000s. I'll tell you now. New World Library, Novato, California, is the publisher. 2003, actually. Yeah. So some other endorsements on the back cover. The road rises to meet the Rambler in this voluptuously rendered pilgrimage in search of mythic Ireland. Patricia Monaghan's writing saturates the reader with the spirit of wide-eyed discovery, good Celtic mischief, prayer flags at holy wells, and sacred teaching, not just of the ancient past, but as much from the ancient future of the Irish soul. Few stories are as fascinating as this story of a return to Ireland, the land of primordial enchantment. It's amazing to find someone who presents so well the people and places, the myths, realities, and history of this country. Patricia Monaghan daringly braids past and present together on her inspirational pilgrimage to Ireland's mythic sites. Just want to make sure that I have, in fact, noted that as number 20. With evocative description and careful scholarship, Patricia Monaghan takes readers on a journey through the countryside of Ireland. She discovers an abundance of sacred pools, half-forgotten caves, petroglyphs etched on stone walls, and wells built on Celtic holy ground. And she beautifully recounts the legends associated with these mystical sites. Yeah, so there you go. And there'll be more along those lines. There'll be more. Because it's not all about just recounting the myth, and it's not all about the scholarly stuff. Sometimes somebody takes, and this Moriarty would be, of course, Moriarty should have been there. Invoking Ireland should have been there for 20th place as well. It should have been on that shortlist. But anyway, just in case I can't see it, just in case. Yeah, the red-haired girl from the bog. According to Wikipedia, Patricia Monaghan passed away in 2012. Yeah. Significant amount of written, published material too. And it is, Josie, it's she just, you know, when you read somebody and you read a scholarly work or you read something and you go, yeah, that's a good overview. But then you read somebody who's just seems to be brilliant at telling the story, you know, and making it relevant and making it modern, contemporary, you know. Kathleen Kane agrees that it is a great book. You're going to have to add an addendum of book titles that are, I know this list could go on to 100, I'm sure, you know. We're all on the edge of our seats, says Josie. I know, it's so difficult because I've read all of these and I'm like, how do I put this over that, you know? Anyway. I'm confused. What was 19, says Barbara. Number 19 was metrical Dinchanicus and prose Dinchanicus. Or the Wren. So pretty much the Dinchanicus material would be 19th. It's very difficult to kind of to say to somebody, right, you've read your top 10, now you want to go deeper without reading the likes of the Festival of Lunasa, the Book of the Cailleach, Irish Kings and High Kings, without reading Laura Gawala, Éireann, without reading Sanas Cormac's Glossary, without reading the Dinchanicus material. Kind of has to be in there, you know. But as we go further down the list, there'll still be material that I would consider very good introductory material, and there'll still be material that will be quite scholarly. There'll be a good mix, But yeah, at this point, I'm literally running out of space, and there's some stuff that when we get to it, we you may say, if you're familiar with it, that should have been in the top 10 or that should have been in the top 20, and you mightn't be wrong. It's very difficult to as I said, it's just compile a list of the stuff that you think people should read and make it a comprehensive list. If it ends up having 70 items on it or 100 items, great. But how to recommend one above another, you know, you know. Desiree wishes I had done this before Christmas. Now I have to wait a year to get a few of these in my Christmas stocking. Sorry. But don't forget the whole library thing, which is very important, Helen is telling us that her reading list has grown. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, and some people are saying, yeah, thanks, Anthony. Thanks a bunch. Now I feel I have to. Some of you will be awake at night thinking about some of these books. I know, because that's exactly the way it is with me. It's like, I have to get a copy of Santa's Cormac. I have to get a copy of Festival of Lunasa. Catherine says it's a wonderful list. Thank you so much for doing. I'm looking forward to learning so much. This was all something that was suggested 6 weeks ago by somebody watching one of the live streams, that I do a top 10 mythology books and top 10 history books or archaeology books. You can imagine, yeah, we're only in number 20, and this could turn out to be a top 60 or 70. But anyway, Michael Trott says number 20, a more left field choice by Anthony. From 3 to 5 thought of contenders. The weaving from the past and future, pilgrimage sites, travel. The red-haired girl from the bog by Patricia Mann in 2003. Yeah, that's the one. I'm just reading back to see if I missed. Michael has been repeating some of these, which is great help. Thank you, John. I hope you enjoyed. Hope it was of some use. I've started building a book fort because I don't have any more room on my shelves. Hey, I think many of us are probably in that boat. Samantha says, Anthony, the early part of is that supposed to be the 20th century? There was a few people traveling around Ireland recording folk tales and stories, legends that the elderly had then been told. There's some of the library available. I think must check it out. Yeah, well, we have to get onto websites and online sources. So duchas.ie is the school's folklore, isn't it? Yeah, I'm thinking of Logonium is the place names. The schools is mostly all digitized now and available online. It used to be only available on microfiche from county libraries. Yeah, Samantha, 20th, yes. The 1930s, the school's folklore was gathered about 90 years ago now, and they're very, very valuable, as you say, and a brilliant resource. There are some books that have sort of basically reprinted some of that. For instance, John Creedon's book, An Irish Folklore Treasury, is based on material from the school's collection. You see there, and I wouldn't mind. That book isn't on my top 50 simply because, and it would be in the top 70 or top 100 simply because it is a repeat of material that's available online. So. And it's only a selection. What's available online, of course, is much more comprehensive. And I still haven't gotten to Moncon McGann and our friend Morgan Daimler and all they've produced, and some of the more obscure stuff that will undoubtedly make a list, but it's just so difficult. Depends on how far you want to go, I suppose. There you go, Michael Trott, duchas.ie for the school's collection from the 1930s. Perfect for a cold afternoon with a glass of wine, a pot of tea, and a fur baby, says Barbara. Couldn't agree with you more, Barbara. And another one on its way to you, winging its way across the Atlantic over the next week or so. Hopefully it'll land safe and sound with you. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Come back next week for the next installment when we will try to do a number 21 to 30. And I'll tell you as much as I can about them. And we'll find out whether those books are available, whether the original or reprints or facsimile reprints or whatever, or even online electronic versions. We'll do our best to guide you And when this is all done, I will put it together in a document, a single page on the website that we can just share the link. And again, it will come with the instruction of, well, it really depends on how deep you want to go. If you only want an introduction, actually, number one on the list, which is MacKillop's Oxford Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. Yeah, fine. You wouldn't need anything else if you just wanted an introduction. So yeah, depends on how deep you want to dive into that rabbit hole. And it goes a long way and branches off in many directions, I can tell you. Some of them lead back to the surface, to the exact place you started, but some of them go, ooh, windy, twisty journeys all through ancient Ireland. You gained a few more grey hairs today, says Deborah. Thanks for your wisdom and insight. Yes, I'll take it as a compliment, but thank you. And yes, indeed, it's so fascinating. To be honest, if I read half of them books, my brain will explode. Just blessed to have you to provide a synopsis of our very intelligent ancestors, says Gary. Relax. Rex, enjoy the snow. Wow. Some of you have got lots of snow. Be safe, be warm, be dry, and most importantly, read books. Thank you, Anne McCallum. Now go have yourself a wee dram. Well, if you insist. Oh, sir, do you know what? I think I will. Thank you very much. Anyway, brilliant. Oh, and Eddie Lenihan. Yeah, crikey. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I think this is going to be a top 100. That's what it's going to turn into. It's going to be epic. Anyway, do tune in next week. And in the meantime, don't forget, we are on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Threads. MythicalIreland.com is the website, which is in itself a treasure trove of information and photography and videos. And if you want to go a bit deeper, please do consider becoming a patron. See you all next week. Thanks a million. Good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Ikawa Kulasov, Slán go fóil agus tó go bugé. Most importantly, take it easy. Good night.